We live with my girlfriend in her parents' house. We have enough money for a rented place, but my fiance's mom strongly recommended that we not move out to save money before the wedding. Honestly, my girlfriend Emily and I didn't want to waste money either, so we decided not to bother and live together without an official wedding for now. Although, logically, we are already living together, but an official marriage and a stamp in the passport do not change much. We decided that if we are already comfortable in our current circumstances, there is no need to rush into an official marriage. Besides, living with her parents allowed us to save more for the future, which was important to both of us. We wanted to eventually have a beautiful wedding and maybe even start thinking about buying our own place. I have a great relationship with her mother, Patricia. Patricia is a little overweight, but that doesn't stop her from leading an active lifestyle. She spends most of her time in front of the TV watching exercise videos on YouTube. It's impressive how she manages to stick to her daily routine. She seems to genuinely enjoy it, and I can tell it makes her feel good about herself. Her husband, Michael, works shifts and is often away. He usually stays home for 2 months and then works another. When he's home, he doesn't do much around the house, but he makes good money, and I think Patricia loves him for that. We've been living with them for about 2 months now, and in that time I've done more housework than Michael. Still, I like him. He's a quiet guy, and I respect the fact that he works hard to provide for his family. When he's around, he tells interesting stories from his work, and I understand why Patricia fell in love with him. Patricia loves me like a native son and always praises me. I like her too. I'm attracted to full women. Emily is chubby too, but not as chubby as her mother. Sometimes I imagine what Patricia would be like in bed, fantasizing about those spontaneous scenes in the movies. It's not something I ever planned to do, but it's been on the back of my mind. Patricia has a certain charm about her, and her confidence is appealing. One day I was home and about to head to the gym when Patricia asked me to keep her company for a workout. She turned on a YouTube video, as usual, and I joined her. It was a very different workout from what I was used to, but I decided to go along with it. To be honest, I admired her fitness. Despite her full figure, she remained strong and determined. It wasn't just her body, but her determination and energy. I tried to touch her gently, politely, and Patricia smiled. She seemed to enjoy it. She even encouraged me to touch her more often. When the warmth of her hands met mine, my breathing quickened. I was wearing gym shorts, and it was obvious how it was all affecting me. Patricia probably noticed, but didn't let on. There was tension in the air, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like we were both treading water, testing how far we could go without crossing the line. We were supposed to be doing abdominal muscle exercises, and she lay down next to me to do them. At one point she stopped while I continued, and to motivate me she took hold of my legs. The tension rose greatly, and I struggled to keep going. Patricia was watching me with a smile on her face, directing the situation in a way that I couldn't resist. Her hands on my legs were both supportive and intimate, and I could feel my pulse quicken. Soon she took the initiative, and I just lay there, drifting into my own little dream. She was looking at me, smiling. She seemed to know exactly what was going on in my head and didn't mind. It was like a game we both secretly enjoyed. When we were done, she kissed me gently on the cheek, thanked me for the workout, and went to take a shower, while I just lay there for a while longer, just thinking about everything that had happened. I couldn't help but replay the moment over and over in my head. There was something thrilling about it, something that made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt before. I knew this was dangerous territory, but part of me wanted to explore it further. Patricia was still just my future mother-in-law, but after that day, our relationship took on a new dimension. No longer was it just friendly involvement or help around the house. There was an unspoken bond, a kind of understanding that we both seemed to share. Later that evening, we all sat down to dinner together, Patricia, Michael, Emily, and I. Patricia acted completely normal, as if nothing had happened. She laughed and joked with everyone, and I couldn't help but admire how easily she switched from one role to another. Emily seemed happy, completely unaware of what had happened between her mother and me. Michael was in one of his usual good moods, telling stories from his work. I was feeling a mixture of emotions, guilt, excitement, curiosity. I kept casting glances at Patricia, and every time our eyes met, she gifted me with a knowing smile. It was as if we shared a secret that no one at the table knew about. After dinner, Emily and I went to our room, and she talked about her plans for the future. Our wedding, where we might go on our honeymoon. All the usual things. I tried to concentrate, but my thoughts kept returning to training with Patricia. I wondered if she was thinking about it too, if she was lying in bed reviewing everything like I was. Just thinking about it made my heart pound. I knew I had to be careful. I loved Emily and I didn't want to hurt her. But there was something about Patricia that I couldn't ignore, something that drew me in. It was like a fire that flared up, and I didn't know how to put it out. That night, lying in bed next to Emily, I thought about what might happen next. Would Patricia and I continue to push the boundaries? Would we pretend nothing had happened? I didn't know, but I couldn't wait to find out. The uncertainty was both frightening and exciting, and I was eager to see what would happen next. Life with Emily's parents was proving to be much more complicated than I had anticipated, and I had a feeling things were only going to get more tense from here on out. The next day was Saturday, and Emily planned to go shopping with her friends. It was just Patricia and I at home, and I couldn't help but feel the tension in the air. I tried to keep myself busy by cleaning around the house and working on a few things that needed to be fixed. Patricia was in the living room doing her usual workout in front of the TV. I could hear her upbeat music, and I was drawn to her. Every now and then I would glance into the living room and catch a glimpse of her moving gracefully, her face full of determination. Finally, Patricia beckoned to me and asked if I could help her stretch. I hesitated for a moment, but then walked over, trying to keep my composure. She lay on the floor with her leg raised for the hamstring stretch and asked me to gently press down on it. I knelt down beside her, put my hand on her leg, and applied a little pressure. The touch was electric, and I could feel the tension building between us. Patricia closed her eyes, letting out a quiet sigh, and I tried to focus on the task at hand, but my thoughts were racing. "That's it. Just a little more," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I felt the muscles in her legs tense under my hand, and my heart pounded in my chest. I looked up into her face, and her eyes widened, meeting mine. There was something in her gaze, something unspoken that passed between us. It was as if we were both silently acknowledging the attraction, the bond that grew between us. I continued to help her with the stretch. My hands moved to her other leg, and the closeness of the moment was almost overwhelming. When we were done, Patricia stood up and smiled at me. "Thank you, it was my pleasure," she said, her voice warm and sincere. I nodded, trying to portray calm, but my mind was still raging from the closeness we had just shared. She reached out and placed her hand on my arm and squeezed it gently. "You're such a great help to me, you know that," she added, her eyes meeting mine. I swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. I like helping," I managed to say, and my voice shook. The rest of the day passed like a blur. Patricia and I continued to dance around each other, unspoken tension hanging in the air. Later, we found ourselves in the kitchen together, preparing dinner. Every time our hands touched or our eyes met, there was a spark, a silent acknowledgement of what had happened between us. It was exciting and scary at the same time. I knew we were playing with fire, but I couldn't help it. There was something about Patricia that drew me in that I couldn't resist. That night when Emily came home, I tried to act normal, but it was difficult. I felt like I was living a double life, torn between my love for Emily and my attraction to Patricia. At dinner, Patricia acted as if nothing had happened, laughing and joking with everyone. Michael was telling his stories again, and Emily was excitedly talking about the things she had bought. I tried to keep the conversation going, but my thoughts kept returning to the moments that Patricia and I had spent together. I could feel her eyes on me every now and then, and when I looked up, she gave me the same knowing smile. After dinner, Emily and I went to our room, and she showed me the clothes she had bought. She was so happy, and I tried my best to focus on her, to be present in the moment. But it was difficult. The events of the day kept popping into my mind, the closeness I felt with Patricia, the way her body reacted to my touch. I knew I had to be careful. I didn't want to hurt Emily, but at the same time I couldn't deny the pull I felt for Patricia. It was like I was caught in a spider's web, and I didn't know how to untangle it. That night, lying in bed next to Emily, I couldn't sleep. My mind was spinning with thoughts of Patricia. I wondered if she was thinking about me too, if she was lying in bed revisiting the moments we had shared. The uncertainty was driving me crazy, and I knew things were only going to get more complicated from here on out. Life with Emily's parents had become a maze of emotions, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for what lay ahead. But one thing was for sure, I couldn't wait to find out. The thrill, the excitement, the danger, it was all too intoxicating to ignore.